Good question. Kat Wilson says, hey, Bill, my high school junior daughter, say hi to Noelle. She really admires you. Hi, Noelle. I admire you, too. Anybody who watches a show like this at a junior in high school is somebody who's not flying with the rest of the birds in the flock, and that's probably going to pay dividends for you downstream. So, hi. Is preparing for college and looking first at in-state schools, also wants to go to biochem. Yay, real job opportunity, says Kat. That's absolutely right. Biochem is something you'll be working and getting paid for the rest of your life. Do it. Do not drop out of biochem. Do not drop out of biochem. You will not have the same success as a biochem dropout in biochem as I had as a theater dropout in theater. However, with that said, she would like very much to know what it was that persuaded you to come over here to the dark side with us. Was it because we make better cookies? I've already had an offer of cookies earlier this evening, so this actually works out rather well. What persuaded me to come over to the dark side was that I was never, the dark side meaning conservatism. What persuaded me to come to the dark side was not that I had to be persuaded. This is a tough thing to explain, which is why I really like this question. Because I was much, much, much more liberal. You look at my voting record, I was a liberal. I mean, I'm horribly, horribly embarrassed to admit it. I'm more ashamed of this than just about anything except for what's on my iPod. But the fact of the matter is, I've said it before, I might as well say it again. I don't have any secrets with you people. My first vote was for Walter Mondale because he said he'd raise taxes. I didn't vote for Dukakis because some people have their limits. In 92, I was kind of liking George Bush. Then I like Ross Perot. I was going to vote for Perot because he sounded different. And then Perot dropped out. Then he got back in. I said, screw you, Ross Perot. I'm going to vote for this Clinton guy because he's not checking his watch during the debate. Looks like he's got some interesting new ideas. So I voted for Clinton in 92, voted for Clinton in 96. In 2000, I liked John McCain very much, and I liked Bill Bradley very much, and I figured as long as it's one of these two guys will be okay. Came down to Gore and Bush, and I voted for Al Gore, even though by then I considered myself a conservative. Why did I vote for Al Gore in 2000 when I considered myself a conservative? Because even then, my belief system was not a belief system. It was a skin. It was something that I put on like a cloak, like a jacket. I used to wear thin lapels, then I wear wide lapels, and I wear thin lapels again. I was a liberal, and I'm a conservative. And the point I'm trying to make is that I was a liberal because I didn't understand anything. And it wasn't that I didn't understand it because I was stupid, and it wasn't even that I ran away from it. It wasn't even that I didn't want to understand. It just wasn't important. Isn't that the great thing about America? Isn't that really how America should be? That the politics should be so basically, politics shouldn't run your life. The president being elected or not elected shouldn't be the cause for people to get out on the edge of a bridge. It should be something that happens a long way away and occupies a small little sliver of your life. And that's what started me getting into politics, was as it got bigger and bigger. But needless to say, 9/11 got my attention. And I didn't start writing after 9/11, but I started reading a lot after 9/11. But up in between the years when I was in college, when I was at my most liberal, was when I was in college, surrounded by other theater department people who also knew nothing about what's going on. I still see them on Facebook, and they still know nothing. I've come a lot further than they have. They have the same opinions I used to have. I have different opinions now because I know an awful lot more about this than they do, which is why I'm convinced this is right. I simply started paying attention. And I was not, this is the thing, this is a point I've been trying to make. I was never a liberal in my bones. People said, you used to be a liberal, now you're a conservative. I never was really a liberal because I never understood liberalism. I never understood it. It's not like, here's a conservative argument, here's a liberal argument. I'm going with the liberal argument. This makes much more sense to me. I didn't hear any other argument. I just basically agreed what other people agreed with. And that's why we have got so much work to do with winning elections, and that's why winning elections will be so fundamentally easy for us. Because once you make the case for these two stories, there's no competition whatsoever. We're going to destroy these people if we can start playing in the culture. But I didn't give a damn about politics. I still think politics is the most low-life form of making a living in the world. I can't believe the disgrace of making a living as a political pundit. It's only better than not working at all. But I certainly do like it. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like it. But when I say I voted for those people, I only voted for them because I looked at Bill Clinton. He seemed like a nice guy. The reason I voted for Al Gore, very simple. Very simple. The reason I voted for Al Gore over George Bush, even though I was known as the staff Republican at the time, was because I remember George Bush talking about the death penalty, which I'm in favor of. And him saying, well, we just kill him. And I thought, that seems a little cold-hearted to me. Yeah, the other guy seems nicer. See how? I bet you it's 30-40% of the population easily votes like this. It's only when I started thinking about these things that I'd always believed started making sense. Now, life does turn you conservative, which is why the liberals are determined that people will never grow up. One of the reasons they're in favor of this perpetual adolescence is because as you come out of adolescence and face the real world, 9 out of 10 people become conservatives because world will do that to you. I can clearly remember in college thinking that if, I'll just put it as plainly as I can, I remember thinking and saying in college that if a black guy comes through my window and steals my TV set, that's okay, because I'm a white child of privilege and I can always go out and get a TV set. I'm well educated and I'm well connected. But this guy, this may be his only opportunity to have a TV set. So, it's just a fact of life I'm just going to have to accept. Then a guy actually did come through my window 6 inches away from where I was sleeping. And I woke up and I said, what are you doing here? And he ran away. And that's when I started thinking about this. And I realized, wait a minute now. Is this guy really unable to have a TV set in America? Is that really what it is? Is this guy breaking into my room and potentially knifing me to death to get the TV set? That wasn't even my TV set, by the way. My dad paid for that TV set. So is he going to take that TV set? The real question, honestly, was, is he going to take that TV set and sell it so that he can get a crust of bread for his family and bring milk home to his little baby daughter because they're all starving to death? Or is he going to take that TV set down to a pawn shop and pawn it for a couple hits of crack? It's B. It's always B. Always B. It's in this country. There are places in the world where people are starving to death. There are places in the world where you have to steal to eat, and this is not one of those places. And that realization sank in. It sank in that these guys would probably kill me if I challenged them. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, if you're asleep and you wake up and there's somebody standing in the room, and this guy was in the window. I mean, his upper torso was inside my bedroom, and he was 2 feet away from me. I reach out and touch him in the ear. And I realized, if I scare this guy enough and he's coming into my room, he's probably coming into my room with some kind of weapon. And if I just wake up in a start and scream or yell or whatever, say, hey, what's going on? There's a chance this guy could kill me over a TV set that he doesn't need for his family, that he's just going to do so he can disappear for 8 hours or 12 or 24, however long he's gone from the reality that he's in. And these kind of questions will start getting you thinking about things. And when you start thinking about these things, then you start to realize that all of the stuff that you believe when you're young is not true. The great reason that the reason that so many young people are liberals, and the reason that lifelong liberals in their 80s, are emotionally arrested in adolescence or earlier, is because it is a very, very, very ego-seductive thought to think that you're the first person to think of this, and also to think that you're so much better than the people who have come before you. That is a powerful drug. And that's what powers liberalism, is the belief that you're smarter and better than other people. It's evidenced in the fact that I'm smarter than other people because I can see these socioeconomic pressures that force this poor man to come into people's windows and steal their television sets. And I'm morally better than everybody else because I'm able to see that this is the only chance this poor fellow has, and I can have all the TV sets I want, but he's only going to get this one chance at the one, so I'm going to be able to rise above this kind of level of, animal sort of selfishness that people with firearms use to protect their families and their lives against these predators, and this kind of thing. And I think you really get to the place where ultimately the people the world reality does make you more conservative. It's been said by much better, smarter people than me. It was Churchill who said, if you're not I don't even remember it. If you're not an optimist at 30, there's something wrong with your heart, and if you're not a pessimist at 40, there's something wrong with your head. Something along those lines. But the only reason people don't become conservative as they get older is because they are so addicted to the sense of achievement, and it's unearned achievement. It's unearned moral superiority, unearned intellectual superiority. I'm better than other people because I'm going to allow this guy to come into my room and maybe rape my wife or kill my children and take the TV set because I see things on a social level that no one else does. It's a bunch of nonsense. And by the way, they believe that right up until the point where somebody does murder their children or rape their wives, then all of a sudden they change their tune. I didn't have to get that far done. But the reason I came over to the dark side was because the dark side makes sense. And as a person in my line of work, I have to defend these ideas. I not only promote them, and I'm as effective as I might be promoting them because I want to be effective at promoting them, because they're good ideas. And they're good ideas because they're tested every day. And many of these things are not obvious. It seems obvious that if somebody's poor and out of work, if you give them money, they'll better themselves, because that's what you would do. And they'll better themselves, they'll get an education, and instead of being a homeless person that's breaking into people's windows for their TV sets, they go on to become engineers and doctors. Only it's not true. That's not what happens when you give them money. You say, that's what I would do if they gave me money, but that's not true either, because I've lived on other people's generosity, and I did not use that time to better myself. Everybody's built this way. Free food is free food. And people will take free food, and the more free food there is, the more they'll take, and the more they'll resent the fact that they weren't getting free Cheetos with the free sandwiches. So, if you're willing to have your eyes open, you'll see this. Now, I think the final thing I'll close on tonight is I think that liberals won't see this, because I think on some level, I found this to be true many, many, many times. Liberals, one of two things happen to them. Either they don't go ahead and do anything in real world that they become proud of. In other words, they're able to maintain, they're desperate to maintain their sense of unearned moral and intellectual superiority, because they never do anything of value in the world. They go on and teach Renaissance poetry, and that savage down the street who owns the car dealership's worth $34 million, and I'm making $18,000 a year, and how dare he? I'm so much smarter than he is. He's an idiot. I'm morally advanced. So it becomes a psychological survival mechanism. So it's either because liberals don't do anything of any achievement in the real world that they can be proud of, so their entire identity of pride becomes this unearned moral or intellectual superiority, or they do things that that they should be proud of, but they aren't because they're guilty. And now you get into the limousine liberal. You get into guys like let's just pick Barbara Streisand, for example, who champions all these liberal causes and talks about higher tax rates but doesn't pay them, and talks about the evils of capitalism as they collect $20 million checks. And they understand that they are being asked to sit in a trailer, a luxury trailer, and have servants, armies of servants, feed them everything. They're making $12 million for 4 weeks' work, while the people outside who are grips are barely able to pay their rent. You want to talk about income inequality. There is no income inequality anywhere greater than there is on a movie set. And on some subconscious level, they understand this. And so while they have achievements, they're ashamed of their achievements. And it's that shame and that guilt that drives them to wrap themselves in this cloak of unearned moral superiority. And that's why they continue to have their entire identity wrapped up in it. And that's why the easiest way to defeat liberals, and this will be my closing statement for the night because I got to run. I think the easiest way to defeat liberals when they ask you a question about policy is you have to know enough about the answers to be able to come up with a good rebuttal, common sense, workable rebuttal. But the one thing I learned from Andrew Breitbart is you never give them the moral high ground. That's where they start from. That's their initial position. Never, ever, ever give it to them. Once you understand that their entire ability to exist is dependent on them standing on ground above you, if you don't give them that high ground, they're done. They are done. They don't know what to do. I was doing an event at Oberlin College, and some 17, 18-year-old blonde white kid was telling me that he was in favor of affirmative action and that I must be a racist because I opposed it. And I said, who's the racist here? You're the person who believes that black people are stupider than white people because you're the person who's ready to let them get into college on a 650 when white kids need an 800. I don't believe that for a second. Not for an instant do I believe that black people are stupider than white people. I'd be all about volunteer programs like the United Negro College Fund to get disadvantaged kids enough money to go to school, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about a program that lets them in with lower test scores because you, on some fundamental level, believe that black people are inferior to whites and that they need the protection of white kids like you to speak up for them and get them into lower test scores and lower the bar for them, and that's your civic duty to these poor disadvantaged people. We do not see people the way you do. We're not racist like you are. You are a racist, and you know it's true. You know it's true. You just don't want to admit it. And the kid doesn't know what to say then. He doesn't know what to say. He's expecting me to say something else, and I call him out. I call out the global warming people. And this is the great thing about me is I have closing thoughts that last about 45 minutes. But I was listening to the BBC on my satellite radio, and I usually don't do that, but I heard this voice, and it was the voice, you've heard this voice a million times, the voice of a BBC woman reporter, and it's filled with that dripping condescension, that over-enunciation of their education, which was given to them at Oxford University, and this attitude that just reeks of superiority that hasn't been earned by anything. And I listened to her talk to the attorney for the U.S. military, and she was talking about drone strikes and talking about how, among the countless examples, Mr. So-and-so, let's just take the example of May 19th, 2011, where a drone strike struck a high-value target terrorist and killed nine innocent civilians standing around him. I suppose your position will be that this is legally and morally defensible on the part of the United States. And, of course, the attorney for the American armed forces did what attorneys do. He did the hat and cane shuffle, and he started backing up and started doing the tap dance, and the tap dance sounds like this. Well, first of all, it's the policy of the United States never to target innocent civilians. And any time that a civilian is killed in one of our raids, it is deeply, deeply regrettable. We go to great lengths to make sure that innocent civilians are not targeted. And we'd also like to state that we feel a tremendous amount of remorse, and we do everything in our power not to target civilians, and we blah blah blah. And we don't know whether they were civilians or this or that or so on or so forth, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. Apology, 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 apology. Basically saying, gee, I feel really bad. This is essentially what the guy said. We feel really bad when we kill civilians. We don't mean to do it, and gee, we're really sorry. And I was listening to this because I'm practicing for this virtual presidency thing. And you got to be ready on all fronts. And I was listening to this in real time, and I thought, how would I respond to this woman? And it came to me like a lightning bolt. Mr. Virtual President Whittle, what do you feel about these innocent civilians that have been massacred by the U.S. Army as a result of these drone strikes? Are you trying to say that this is a morally defensible position on the part of the U.S. government? And my response would be to look right at that woman. I would look her right in the eye. I would say, let me get something crystal clear with you, young lady. You are the most disgraceful, disgusting, repellent, abhorrent people on the face of the earth. You and people like you. Because people like you are fully, unlike the rest of the people out there, you are a well-educated, well-informed person, and you are fully aware of the kind of people that we are fighting against, the kind of people that you're defending here. You are fully aware of the fact that if we lose and they win, you will spend the rest of your life, best case scenario, in a fabric sack with a little grill for you to look out from the basement because you're not going to be allowed outside on yourself. That's the best case scenario for you if you get your way. The best case scenario for you if you get your way is to live in a burqa, to never be allowed outside except in the company of a male relative, to have acid thrown on your face if you decide to marry somebody or kiss somebody that's not approved of by your father, to have clitorectomies performed on you and all this other stuff. Your most likely outcome if these people win is that you'll be gang raped and then murdered and your head sewn off. And as your head is being sawn off by these 7th century barbarian savages, you will not be appealing to help from the U.S. military. You will spend your final gasps between choking down your own blood, telling these people that you're on their side, You're a good one. You're one of them. You're one of their friends. They don't care a damn. You are an infidel female, and you will be used and then executed because you deserve it. Now, starting from that premise, it takes a lot of nerve for you to sit there in the lap of luxury which is provided to you by capitalism, which you also condemn. You live a lovely life. You travel around in jet aircraft, and you have electric hair blow dryers, and you watch flat screen colors TV. All of this stuff provided to you by the miracles of capitalism, which you condemn, in a world of perfect safety and security provided by the U.S. and British armed forces that are out there dying for you every single day. And you have dedicated your life to destroying the people that are defending you from these animals, and you want to stand there and take a position of moral authority, moral superiority over people like us who are being forced to kill children, and you have the unmitigated gall, you who don't have any children, by the way, to tell those of us who do have children that we're monsters for doing this, that we have to make the tough decisions in the real world to suppress this horror and this nightmare and this ongoing tide of barbarism and hatred and savagery. Those of us that have to make the tough decisions to fight these people and have to put this on our consciousness, our consciences, and live with this every single moment of every single day. You have the unmitigated unmitigated gall to stand there and take a position of moral superiority over us. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. If you really believed what you claim you believe, you should go and get a job with the Taliban and fight this great evil in the West, because you benefit from every single thing that these drone strikes do and every single thing that capitalism provides you. You benefit from it and you try to destroy it. And let me close by saying this, young lady. If civilization does fall from the sky and we look down on the ruins of poetry and music and philosophy and all these other things, if homosexuals are executed in the middle of town squares by being hung from construction cranes, and there is no more medicine and there is no more anything, no more electricity, no nothing, because the people you're defending win, then the gravestone of civilization will have 3 letters on it, and those 3 letters will be B, B, C, and we will be able to deduce what happened after that. All of it will make perfect sense. We'll just look down and say BBC, got it. A bunch of elitist, undereducated, immoral swine have taken a position of moral superiority to assuage their own sense of guilt and their own sense of lack of ability, and climbed up on a mountaintop and thrown stones at the people that are defending them. You have got a lot of nerve asking me that question. Next question, please. That's what it sounds like, miserable lowlife. All of them in the press are this way. All of them. They're all this way. They're all exactly this way. You're better than us? Why? Because we kill terrorists and innocent civilians get killed? Well, you obviously don't care about innocent civilians. Don't tell us what we care or don't care about. We're better people than you. We're better people than you. We feel these things more than you do. Believe us. We have to know the difference between right and wrong, and we know that doing right sometimes comes with consequences, and these consequences are not anything that these people will ever get over. I assure you that I was offered the job, by the way, a couple times, offered the job of running drone missions out of Palmdale for General Atomics with the Predators. I had a friend who worked for the company. I had instrument rating, and I could have gotten my commercial pilot's license in about a week. They said, go do it. And I thought about it. I really did. I thought that'd be fun because I wouldn't have any problems whatsoever pulling the trigger on these people. I know what they are. But I just, I realized if you're one of these guys and you're flying a drone mission from Nevada, and you don't make the decision as the pilot, but you pull that trigger. And the people who make the decisions make the decision. You later find out that 4 children were killed in that. You will never be the same person again, ever. You will never, ever, ever be the same person again. You live with that for the rest of your life. And by doing that, you have kept these people from exploding airliners with people like BBC reporters on them over the Atlantic at 2 o'clock in the morning on a cold night in December, when these savages had plans to blow up 10 airliners simultaneously. You have saved the life of that woman or women like her, men, women like her, little children who are sleeping on airplanes at 2 o'clock in the morning at 36,000 feet as those engines drone on and on and on between London and New York City, are going to come home and they're going to land and they're going to have Christmas and they're going to wake up and open their presents because some guy somewhere pulled a trigger on a car that had the guy who had the plans to blow up those airliners. And now he has to live with the fact that he killed some kids for the rest of his life. But you don't have to worry about that, do you? You just get your children, you go on, you live your life, and you talk about how evil we all are. Well, there are things about the world that are not in plain sight to everybody, but that doesn't mean they're not there, and it doesn't mean it can't be explained. Okay? When we know for an absolute certain moral fact that these savages and animals have absolutely, repeatedly planned to do these things, then it does become a question of who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? We didn't randomly fly over Afghanistan, madam. Didn't just randomly fly over Afghanistan and say, look, there's a group of unarmed civilians. Let's go blow them up. Because if we were the people that you claim we were, if we were the Nazis that you claim we were, we wouldn't be dicking around with strobes, with drones like this. If we saw somebody down there in a city and we were the kind of people that you think we are, we would do what the people who you think we are actually did. When the Germans detected resistance in a village, they went in and murdered everybody and they burned the village to the ground. If we were the people you say that we are, we wouldn't launch a drone strike and try and hit a car with one guy in it and maybe accidentally kill 2 or 3 people who are standing nearby. We would send B-52s over. And we wouldn't just take out that building. We wouldn't just take out the block. We'd just flatten the city as an example to the others. Here's what happens when you house terrorists, we would say, and the terrorism threat would go away. And then we would be the people you accuse us of being. But we're not those people. Anybody with a brain knows it. And we are not going to sit here and continue to be battered by the likes of you. When you give up the benefits of capitalism, and when you walk out into the third world wilderness and you forego the security that is paid for by better men and women than you, and they're all better than you, and by a wide margin, then After 3 or 4 years out there, then I will begin to listen to your moral lectures about your moral superiority. Until then, you're an absolute worthless waste of intellect and life and opportunity, and you should be ashamed of yourself. That's how you deal with reporters, in my humble opinion, and this is why we lose elections. This is why conservatives don't come out and vote. This is why 30 million of us decided to sit this one out, because they didn't hear anything different from Mitt Romney than they get from Barack Obama. But there's a difference between the two of us, and the difference is that Barack Obama does not like the society. He does not admire the society. He doesn't understand the society. He loathes the society. He believes that everything that the West has got, especially America, was a result of theft, and he is determined to make sure that we pay for that theft. I, on the other hand, have seen people run businesses from the ground up. I've watched people go from drinking powdered milk to driving around in brand new Mercedes SUVs to houses that cost $12, $13 million, because I watched them work every single moment of their lives. So I know how this works. He did build that business. He did it by himself. He had people working for them, and he paid them. And he not only paid them, he gave them a share in the company. I don't want to go on about this anymore. You get the general idea. But that's how you deal with them. You simply do not give them the moral high ground, because their entire strategy is predicated on it, and I'm not going to let them win anymore. I'm sick and tired of watching these people win. That's it for the Stratosphere Lounge number 21. Went a little longer than I thought. I've got to catch up on some things.